to Access Paranormal. We've been invited down by David Jenkins, author,
Empath,
and
Theorist, I would say.
Theorist.
I don't want to say a ghost hunter because I know they exist, so you can't hunt for something you know is there anyway.
No, fair enough. We got in touch with David. We met David down in Mill Street Barracks. Brilliant man. So we said we need to get in touch with him again. And we, true, did you say then?
I said no, I said bless you. That's a true. I haven't got that big of an ego.
Well, Jonathan was on one of his holidays as usual, as you know. And I met up with David because we were there with the Haunted Buildings UK. And we had a great chat. And I went, Dave, we need to talk to you. We need to get you on. And we finally managed to pin you down and managed to get up here as well, didn't we?
Yep.
And the funny thing was, we've been here for about an hour and we've been talking everything paranormal. And I wish we did. But what we're going to do is we're going to record what David was saying because it was fantastic. Yeah. We're kicking ourselves on with Jonathan.
I know. Yeah.
But Jonathan was going to interview you again instead of David.
Yeah, either way, I'll just sit quietly, nicely, mind my own business. Just use the lounge, I'll bring you out of space.
Well, Dave, you've brought out, well, you're coming up to your third book now, aren't you? You've done one on Southport, the one on Bootle, which I'm just starting to read. I've just read your little speaking on when you were down in London.
Right.
I'm a bit scared to read the rest of the book after that.
Why? No, right. There's some, you haven't gone into the really
don't tell me that now, I've only just started it. And then you also just now publishing your third book, aren't you?
It is.
And what's your third book called?
Well, Supernatural, strangely enough, Llandudno.
Llandudno?
Llandudno of all places.
Oh, brilliant.
Well, I'll have to read that one as well, because all my life, me and my mum and dad and everyone, the family used to go there all the time.
Same here.
So, yeah. Probably saw you up there.
You may have.
Same as you two at school.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. So Dave, tell us about, I like this question because it always intrigues me how people got into the paranormal. So what made you get into the paranormal? What gave you that interest?
For me, it was probably, I've always had a sense of something being bigger than what it is, as the world as it is. As a child, I could always see things at the corner of my eye. Figures and shadows, always.
What's the word? Peripheral.
Yeah.
That's the word.
I had, when I must have been about 11 or 12, I remember making my bed. This was my first ever really bizarre experience. And I looked in the mirror and I was horrified to not recognize the person in the mirror. And that sounds strange. At the time, I realized I was obviously scrying or something that I wasn't aware of.
Yeah.
But it wasn't me that I could see. And it terrified me.
Because they say mirrors are like another dimension, aren't they?
Yeah, like crystal balls or bowls of water or anything that reflects is scrying.
Yeah.
And I was just doing something totally irrelevant at the time, and obviously wasn't aware that I had some kind of gift, that I was scrying and not realising it. And it wasn't me I could see, which was my first ever experience.
Frightening.
Yeah, very. Because it was,
imagine it would
you just don't know what the hell's going on. And then from there, I think the only main thing that happened while I was still young was my poor granddad wasn't well at the time and he was dying. He was about 85. And I woke up one morning, I was only about 17, and I knew that day he was going. I knew.
Wow.
And I offered to be, because the whole family were taking turns on sitting with him and looking after him and making sure he was all right.
Yeah.
And I decided I wanted to be there. I don't know why, because I was such a young man, if you like, at 16, 17. I wanted to be there, or I needed to be there. And so I took the night shift that evening to look after him.
Right.
And I've never to this day experienced anything like it, where for the last hour of his life, bless his heart, he kept saying he needed someone to switch the light out, and I was in darkness. It was too bright for him. Because I was sitting in the corner having a cup of tea, just keeping an eye on him and making sure he was comfortable and everything. And he kept complaining about the light being too bright. And then all of a sudden, I felt the atmosphere in the room change. And it was like I was in a crowded place full of people. You could not move in the room for people. And they say like someone comes to collect you. He had a crowd. It was bizarre. But it felt really peaceful. And I wasn't scared at all. And then I heard his last breath, bless his heart. And the room was just empty again, including him, but he was in the bed. But it was like the room was empty, I was alone.
Oh, wow.
And it was the strangest feeling.
You get that in hospitals, don't you?
Yeah.
You hear of a lot of nurses saying.
And they say they open a window, don't
Yeah.
they, in some to let the spirit out.
Yeah.
And it was the strangest feeling that I've ever felt in my entire life. Even to this day, I've never known such peace. And even, it was a nice feeling, even though I was staring at my granddad who just passed. It wasn't scary, it was bizarre. Because it was really peaceful and safe and tranquil, and you shouldn't feel that if you're looking at someone who's just passed. But it was.
So they were passing on their
They'd come
comfort
to
you.
No, not for me. They'd come to collect him.
No, but no.
I think they'd come to collect him.
But they passed on to you that it's a nice peaceful. He's going.
Yeah.
They're giving you comfort as well as taking the person.
I don't think they were there for me. I think I was just a witness to it.
Right.
They had come to reassure him that he was passing,
and you
that you'll be fine. And being an empath, I could sense that.
Right.
They weren't there to tell me anything.
But it was
You just felt it.
a nice feeling.
I felt they were there to help him
Yeah.
and to take him, because he was obviously scared, because you would be.
Yeah.
But it was wonderful.
Oh wow.
It was bizarre.
And for you to witness it as well.
Yeah, it was. And then after that, I moved to London. I lived in, to be blatant, a haunted flat, which I'd never would have believed in my life.
Is that your friend's one who?
No.
Not before
No.
your friend's one. Yeah.
I know I moved to my friend's flat to stay with him in London over Christmas because I wanted to move to London.
Right.
And that must be, as I was getting older, I was sensing more and more spiritual things, I would presume. But that was to do with an object that it was attached to.
Right.
But when I moved into this flat, it was like nothing I'd ever imagined, or nothing you could even write about. It was bizarre.
Was this in London itself?
It was
in
London.
the centre
It was
of London.
a place called Mornington Avenue in West Kensington.
Right. Okay.
And it was a top floor flat in an old Edwardian house. Obviously, I believe anyway, it was the servants' quarters, because I was in the attic.
Right, okay, yeah.
It was converted, each floor had been converted into, it was like 5 floors, this big massive tall house, into flats on each floor.
Yeah.
And I was in the attic in the eaves, because it was all slanted and you had to jump when you had a wee and everything. That's a different story. But Lorraine Chase was my neighbour on the ground floor,
right,
actually.
yeah.
Oh, wow.
Bless her.
Not
Luton Airport.
Naples.
That was
The rain in Spain. I mean,
Blame me on the
that's
plane.
the one.
Yeah.
She was my neighbour. She lived on the ground floor. Bless her. And without going into too much detail, she helped me on the day that I believe I was attacked.
Yeah.
In a way, by
You were
this
attacked?
sort of, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Not personally. There was a fire in the flat,
Yeah.
in the kitchen, and I was watching telly. I had not even been in the kitchen. I went into the kitchen. The whole oven was a turret flames.
And he hadn't left it on or nothing.
No, I wasn't cooking anything, and I believe it was the spirit, or spirits, or whatever was in there, that had created that fire.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And did you feel safe? I know
No.
you had the flame.
No.
Did you not feel safe at all?
Never felt safe in the property. In the bedroom, the very first night I moved in, there was a whole set of mirrored wardrobes along one side of the wall. the one nearest to my bed on my side tapped and tapped for about an hour,
Oh,
which I didn't like, obviously.
yeah.
And there was little swinging door handles on an old set of drawers.
Yeah.
Each one of them would tinkle one at a time, going up and down the drawers. Not all at once
And
or
you stayed?
anything. Eh?
And you stayed there?
Yeah. Don't ask me why. But at the time, I think when you live in somewhere that's haunted, you don't realise how much until you move out.
Yeah.
How severe it was.
Yeah. Because you just...
Yeah, because you get used to it. It's
Yeah.
like
You
getting
get used
the
to it because
house.
it sort of did it gradually.
Yeah.
It didn't all happen like it happened gradually. Whereas in the lounge, the whole lounge would shake at times. You'd get tremors. And I checked, we weren't under an underground or anything like that. But if things would actually physically shake, and if you asked it to stop, it would stop.
Oh.
It would stop.
So it was, in a way, it was intelligence.
Very. I believe there was free spirits in there.
But they weren't nice.
No.
They worked together.
I don't think they were evil. I think they saw me as an intruder.
Mischievous.
Yeah.
And what I'd actually found out, I mean, the worst thing for me was when I had right here in my flat, I've got my own little set of stairs.
Yeah.
There was one in this flat because you had your own wall here and then one set of stairs that led you up to your attic flat, if you like.
Right, yeah.
And the only time I was ever scared, I came down the stairs going to work one morning. Just as I was about to close the door, I heard someone run down the stairs after me. And you could hear each step foot really loud as if they were running because the wall was there, it was a false wall. So I slammed the door quick and went away. And I refused to come home until my partner came home.
That would be Jamie,
Right.
That was me.
Jamie just wouldn't come home.
No. And I lived there for 3 years and I researched a bit
Yeah.
and found that there had been a fire in the property.
Ah, right.
And I believe 3 servants died in that attic.
And they were the ones who...
And they were the ones that were haunting him.
Because really you were invading their home.
Yeah.
To them.
To them.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I had actually physically experienced anything on that level.
And
Yeah.
And it made me realise, wow, there's something to this paranormal.
so that's when you started getting more into it.
It's when I started opening up to my own feelings on being able to see and feel.
How did that come about? Because obviously we're all different. How did it come about that you started to realise that you could pick up on paranormal activity or spirits, if that's the way to put it?
Well, along with that, what I experienced after that, I bought a flat in Hammersmith, and when I moved out, it was then I realised how bad and how haunted that attic flat was.
Yeah.
There, I still had experiences where I think spirits were trying to contact me. And it sounds as if you're mad or going round the bend because you are explaining things like this, but you don't believe them at the time, or you try not to embrace such. I was too busy trying to be a pop star, so the last thing I wanted to be was Doris Stokes.
Yeah.
As you do.
Try and block it out as...
Not even block it out, just
put it to the
just
back
put
of your
it.
mind.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
It was just silliness, or just maybe the strange things that happened. But 2 things that happened when I moved to the other flat, which thought maybe I must have some kind of gift. I woke up one night, and for some reason, there was, I can still see them now, there was 3 entities around the bed. And I don't know if those 3 entities were related to the attic flat that I'd rented.
And it followed you.
And followed me, or something completely different.
Right.
But I can still see them to this day, and they were all female. And there was one woman here, one woman standing through the bed here, and another one there.
Hovering.
Hovering over me. right over me. And it was almost, they were pure white,
Yeah.
but their outline was smoke. Little bits of smoke, like pipe smoke.
Yeah.
Swirls of smoke that were in perfect shape to give facial expressions, body shape, and everything.
Ooh, something like that.
It wasn't nice. And I felt like I was in a dream.
Yeah.
The one over me, then I can still see it to this day. They were all chatting to me. I can't remember what they were saying.
Yeah.
But the one that was here suddenly went to the end of the bed and held out her hand. And I took her hand.
Oh.
And I got out the bed.
Oh, wow.
And I was walking down the hallway from the bedroom. And for some reason I thought, whoa, what am I doing? Where are these, what am I doing? It was only then that I realised how bizarre it was. And what the hell am I doing?
So do you think you'd come out of like a kind of a trance state and then...
I don't know. I think it was more that they'd seduced me. It felt like
over you type thing.
No, they'd seduced me into thinking it's okay, just come with us, it's fine. And I thought, well, and as I was going, I'm thinking, well, where the hell am I going? And I remember let go of her hand, and all of a sudden my partner at the time woke up and said, what the bloody hell are you doing? And I was standing in the hallway, and I started crying. I couldn't cope with the emotion of it. And I remember saying, I was going somewhere and I don't know where I was going.
Where did you...
And I still, to this day,
out?
I don't know if they were taking me, I don't know if they were helping me pass away. It felt like, it felt like they were taking me away.
Yeah.
Oh, that's scary.
It was. And I don't understand, but it wasn't demonic or menacing.
Yeah.
Peaceful.
It was just as if they were friends and they were leading me away from something. But they were taking me somewhere.
Oh, that's weird.
And it was bizarre. And I can still see it to this day.
That's stuck in your mind.
Yeah.
I think things do. I think if something's significant like that,
yeah,
it does like tend to stay in your mind a lot. Because I was telling you about which you explained it fantastically, was I said a time slip and you said you think you're seeing it from another person from that time. They're giving you their...
I think you channel their mind frame more than time slip. Because I don't think a time slip is realistic to me to think of as being able to channel someone's mind, an imprint of what they were thinking if they were in the same atmosphere 100 years ago, in the same... You could be standing right in the same position as where they stood. 60, 70, whenever it was years ago, looking out that window. And for some reason, you could pick up that exact vision of what they saw.
Well, it's like a photograph, isn't it?
Yeah.
I always say a photograph is a fraction of time captured.
Cheers, forever.
And when people say to me, oh, you can't go back in time, look at a photograph. You are going back in time. It's captured, it's proof, that's there. Might be a split second, but you're going back in time every time.
Yeah.
You look at them pictures.
Exactly.
You buy these books, you're going back in time because somebody's memories is captured forever.
I think you're able to view it, but you can't interact with it.
Yeah, and it's the same now as like, if you think of, like you said to me, I said to you, I've gone back in, I'm sure I had a time slip, and you said, no, you might have been in somebody's view.
Yeah.
That's their photographic memory of something for that time. Yeah. But obviously it's like movements. It's like a video, we get videos now, or CDs, or whatever you want to call them now. In years to come, you know, we look back at old films going back to the 1920s. That's your time.
It's frozen.
It's frozen. Well, yeah, it's frozen, but it's footage. It's video footage of the past. So when you look at that, you're in the past.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
And that's what it must be like when we pick up things and we say we've got a time slip.
Of course.
It's the same thing. And they go, no, how can you do that? But how do you capture the video?
Exactly.
How do you capture the video?
Yeah.
So
Where's it captured? It's captured on, it used to be on VCR tapes.
Yeah.
it's now captured electronically. How do you catch an image electronically?
Yeah.
So it must be the same with.
Well, electronics and energy
Yeah.
are the same on whichever
it's
level,
an
whether
energy,
you're using a piece
yeah.
of equipment or your mind that's creating it.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating world. We
It
can go
is.
into we can go into anything like that. You know, we can
Yeah.
go into how did it all happen? How did we invent all it? It's another
Exactly.
It's a different case. We're going to go on to your book.
Oh, right.
You've got to mention your book. Dave,
Okay,
because-
which one?
Oh, okay.
Not that I'm bragging.
Well, let's start with
Well,
your,
you pick one up.
let's start with your Southport one.
Well, that
because
was the
your very
first
first
one.
one, wasn't it?
That was the
First
very
one,
first
Southport.
one.
So we got the Southport one there,
Yeah,
and now, I mean, I know you don't live too far from Southport. You're actually
I'm in Southport.
He's in Southport, yeah.
and Churchtown is just there, which is
Mm.
probably one of the most haunted
Is it in
parts
your
of.
book? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Neil's Hall is just 2 minutes spitting distance.
Oh,
Yes,
don't tell us
it is,
that.
yeah. It is.
So,
It is.
did you
Yeah.
start off thinking, where can I start? You know this, know that. Did you think, I think I'll write a book on Southport?
Well, no. In a word, to be
You told.
honest, yes and no.
Mm.
I actually moved from Spain without going into. I keep going diverging off.
He's been abroad more than you.
I
know,
lived in
yeah.
Spain for 12 years.
Wow.
And I was taught the tarot cards by a gypsy in Spain.
Nice.
And she taught me the tarot. When I moved back here, for some reason I got a job as a tarot reader in a shop on Lord Street, which doesn't exist anymore. It was called Spellbound. It was just this at top end it was.
Mm.
And I was the resident tarot reader there.
Yeah.
So I did that for 12 months. And I started to get different information and people from psychic churches and that telling me about the different strange stories within Southport.
Yeah.
And then about 3 years ago, I wrote a story entering a competition in Take a Break.
Ah, right, yeah.
And they wanted a 100-word ghost story. So I entered and I won.
Ooh,
Yeah.
brilliant.
And then that's what then made me decide. And they printed my
Story.
story. And it's what spurred me on to then think, well, maybe I should do something, because I have these harebrained philosophies on the paranormal, and
Yeah.
people seem to open up to me about
Mm.
their experiences.
Yeah.
So I thought I might write a book about
It's funny
it.
because we've been opening up telling you our experience
Yeah,
before we
yeah.
even come on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'll write a book on it. So from there, I researched different parts of the historical ghosts, if you like, of the area.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then I also go on social media and ask people if they don't mind telling me their own personal experiences of what they've experienced in this area.
Mhm.
Right.
And I do it anonymously, so their name
Yeah.
isn't blazoned across a blooming whole chapter saying
Yeah.
Winnie Mandela has been a haunted this, that and the other. And I found that really interesting because you can mix the two medias of legend, if you like, and true life experiences.
Can I ask, did you get some of stories that you were able to put together?
Yeah, in the book.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, no, some people gave me enough information that I wrote whole chapters on them.
Right.
So within the book, it's a mixture of historical ghosts
Yeah.
and legendary ghosts and what people have experienced.
Ah, that's
Yeah,
That's
I
good.
don't know.
Which,
Yeah.
and because it's all in one area, it's like a document
yeah.
of what people have seen. I mean, for instance, the two that I would say stick out in my mind the most within the book, one was of a woman that used to come home from work every single night along the road where the Alkirk,
Well,
Oh.
shooting range.
the shooting range,
Yeah.
and the aeroplane.
But the airfield.
airfield.
Airfield, that's
Yeah,
the word
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
looking
yeah.
for.
Yeah.
Aeroplanes.
That's the one, yeah.
And that stretch of motorway, it's in the book, but I can't remember what that stretch of motorway is. Every night she would come home from work, and on rainy nights, only on a rainy night, she would see a woman in a green coat, walking along the road next to there.
Yeah.
And on one specific night, she felt sorry for her because it was pelting down. She pulled into a bus stop near there to stop and offer her a lift.
Yeah.
And she waited and that woman never came.
Ooh.
And there was nowhere she could go.
She just vanished.
Isn't it? Yeah.
She just wasn't there.
That's the bypass, isn't it?
Yeah. So she just seen her,
It's
she
the one
pulled
alongside
in.
the aerodrome, isn't it? where you-
Yeah.
Woodvale.
Yeah, Woodvale, that's the
Woodvale.
way.
Yeah,
Woodvale.
Yeah.
She pulled in, put her hazard lights on and waited. She'd only just seen the woman. She never came up to the car.
There's nowhere to go, is there?
There's nowhere to go.
You've got
All that.
the airfield on
It's
Yeah.
a
the
long
side,
road.
Yeah,
and then it's all like trees, bushes.
Mhm.
It's like farmland on the other
Yeah.
side, isn't it?
nowhere to go.
Do you ever go to...
I go to anywhere that I've been told about.
Gotcha.
Always.
You read me mind. I was going to say, do you go to these
Yeah.
locations as well to,
Yeah,
to follow
Because
on?
you, obviously, there are certain things. I don't like to give a house number.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because if somebody doesn't live in that property anymore, I don't want to put the scares on somebody who does live in it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would never knock on the door and say, "Oh, hello, by the way, you've got a mad monk. You've got you've got a crazy nun in the bathroom. Can you mind if I take some pictures?" I don't think they'd appreciate you.
I think the police would I think the police would be escorting you off the premises.
Exactly. So I never state anything too specific. I'll tell you
Yeah.
the street and I'll tell you the year. I will never say it's number 62 and
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
But you always get the mad ones who'd end up going there. If you
Well, exactly. And someone will read my book and go and knock on the door and say, "Oh, I hear you've got a..." And then the person can sue me.
Mm.
Because they'll say, "No, well, there isn't a nun in the bathroom." But one of the ones that you can find out, but I'm not going to say exactly where or which book, which I found really bizarre and quite creepy, was there was a couple that bought a flat in a certain road, and it needed renovation. They renovated it, and after they renovated it, there was an outhouse attached. It was that old and dated.
Yeah.
They'd knocked through and extended and created a larger kitchen
Right. Yeah.
using the outhouse. As soon as it was all completed, they started hearing strange tapping coming from one far corner of their new kitchen. And they got plumber in after plumber in, trying to find out what the source of this irritating tapping sound was. They spoke to a neighbour about it, who said before they'd renovated, the woman that lived there hung herself in the outhouse.
Oh.
The tapping sound was the sound of her feet against the porcelain basin of the toilet.
I wouldn't have want to know that.
But that's exactly what the tapping sound was.
And that's in your book.
That's in my book. She was
Oh,
doing the
that's
dance of death on the toilet seat.
You do know that's a read that now, don't you? Well, your Southport one sounds fascinating.
That makes sense to me, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. It does.
That in her last breaths, obviously she was so distressed and distraught, her energy is still there. And it doesn't matter what you do with that property, it's still going to be there.
Yeah.
So basically where her microwave was while she's cooking a pan of beans, there's somebody strangling themselves forever, for eternity.
It doesn't matter what you ever do. You can knock it
No.
down, rebuild something,
And it'll
else,
still
it's
be
gonna
there. But I find that really interesting.
Yeah. Because that's an energy what's permanently in that spot. It's like a memory every time.
But being an empath, for me, it makes me feel sorry for the person. My heart goes out to them. The fact that, can you imagine if you died and you took your own life from something that was so horrific, and you're now left in purgatory, dangling forever, kicking a toilet seat? Can you imagine how horrific that would be?
Do you reckon that's that, or the soul is gone, and that's just a memory?
No, I believe with things like that, they're physically there. Physically, because there are different kinds of spirits where you can just, a residual I call it,
Yeah.
Where it's just a memory.
Mm.
It's like a record constantly playing, or as you say, a tape on videotape that keeps playing.
Yeah.
But you also get where something like that, if you can imagine your emotions are so low and so distraught, and you've taken your own life, who knows if there is such a thing as a God, if you'd be allowed into heaven after committing suicide. A lot of Catholics don't believe that.
See, I believe it's slightly different, and I think your soul goes somewhere else. And I think that, you know, you were saying that, would you be allowed in there? That's despair.
That's not
There's-
my
there's-
belief,
No, I
but-
get what you're saying, but there's also like, I think if there's help on our side now, thankfully,
Yeah,
but there must be help on that side as well, because, you know,
Is there?
anybody. I
but
think
what if she
anybody who
believes she
passes-
deserves that in her mind? What if she was a Catholic and she believes she's hung herself and it's a mortal sin? She has accepted her lot in being dangling there forever.
Don't know, because I think
So if that's stuck in her
Mind
brain
frame,
or mind,
She will
well, when
stay
she
there
passes,
and accept it.
in
she'll
her
accept a
mind,
lot.
she thinks that she can't go
Yeah.
to heaven. She can't go
Yeah.
and see God. So
But-
she does stay there.
Yeah.
but going back to when somebody passes and you say people come and take you, couldn't that have happened to her? And then he'd be, I know it's getting a bit deep here, but
I
to
believe
help them.
no. I'll tell you why. Because I think when you die naturally, it's like someone with a clipboard and a rosary will say, well, you've got to go and see off this person and that person and that person today. But if you decide to take your own life, you're not on the agenda.
Yeah.
You're not on anyone's diary ready to go and collect. It's like if you're
You're not on
getting
that
a
list, are you?
delivery from Curry's Electricals and you're waiting for
Yeah.
a fridge. If you know that fridge is coming and you're on the list, you'll be in.
Yeah.
But if you're not expecting it and they knock, you won't get in. And that to me is limbo and purgatory.
I think that's another story. That I think
It is,
that's
isn't
another
it?
subject
But
altogether.
isn't paranormal such a multi-layered
Exactly.
thing
Oh,
anyway?
It's because
it is.
it's the word, isn't it? Unexplained. We can't explain
Explain it.
anything. I mean, we could go on that subject about what we've just been talking about there. We could go on and on and on about that, and then we can go on and say, well, it could be that this and that helps and that. Where I said, well, couldn't you have had help?
They could.
Who knows? Who knows?
But if you, I think if you have your mind frame at the time, if your mind frame is of one that you want to take your own life, your mind frame isn't rational. Your mind frame won't be welcoming to anyone come to take you.
If you've had that mindset,
Yeah,
But I believe that's help for everyone.
there is, but you have to wish to want it. And if you've took your own life, you're not looking for help, you're not looking for peace, you're doing something because you think you deserve it.
Well, that's another subject we can go on about them.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
love it.
It's so deep though.
It
that-
is. I mean, anything with paranormal can go deeper, deep.
In my book on, going back to the next book,
Yeah.
Put it on the screen. Imagine
In-
hand out the way because we can't see what
in
it is.
Bootle-
Supernatural Bootle. Yeah.
similar to those stories, which I love to research and find out about when people tell me, in the North Park, which is the big park which links Liverland Road to the Strand Shopping
Just
Centre.
for the listeners, these two know Bootle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in
I haven't got
Bootle.
I used to play in that band.
Yeah,
This was in the 20s.
40s at least.
2020.
Yeah, 20. Well, that's enough. I'm getting the fish. I'm saying nothing on that one. Just seeing visions of Philip Schofield.
Allegedly.
With his gopher. Anyway, yeah, and I've gone off track now. Right, apparently there was an old woman that was often seen walking through early mornings through the park.
Right, now I've heard this before.
A lot of people have.
Yes, I have heard of that.
Haven't you?
Yes.
And have you heard anything other apart from that woman that's seen?
No.
Well, I researched it
Right.
because I had 3 different witnesses who had seen this woman.
Right.
And it wasn't until one particular witness, it's like being Miss Marple as well when you do
Can
things
I-
on the panel.
It was not to do with the pond.
Yes.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
Don't know.
I'm out of this one.
It was
The paddling
I'm gonna
pool.
say it was more of it was a very, very, would you say 50s, 60s type concretey paddling pool type thing?
It was. It's been there since the Second World War.
Yeah.
Is it still there now?
I think it's filled in now.
Yeah. They
Is
built the swimming pool and everything
Yeah.
in the park.
But there was a big pond there.
Yeah.
And it's from the 1930s. That's how old the pond was.
Yeah.
Or paddling pool, should we say.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I researched it.
Right.
One particular woman who went, I can't remember, but it was in a butcher's in the Strand shopping centre, used to go every morning to work through the Strand to cut through.
Mm-hmm.
One morning, she heard a child crying in distress.
Right.
And she tried to find the child. She couldn't find it. She found it very bizarre and creepy. Went to work. She also saw this woman walking through the park on a different occasion.
Oh, these two noises were in the park.
Yeah,
Right, okay.
we're in the park. I researched it because I like to try and correlate.
Yeah.
In 1938, I think it was, a woman suffering from postnatal depression took her child and drowned it in that paddling pool.
I can't say a word because I don't know anything about this.
Mm.
And that's in your book.
And that's my book.
I've been in that paddling pool thing.
She drowned, and then she went to
Is it book for not family?
You might have known the boy. 1942. No, 1936 it was.
Don't be taking
So-
it.
I'm just going on with it.
He's great.
So, and that to me validates, because you
Yeah.
think that makes sense
Yeah.
for both the boy spirit and for the mother. Because I tried to find out, I couldn't find out what happened to the mother afterwards. She was arrested and put away for it.
Right.
It's a sad situation.
It's very sad.
And 3 people told you the same story.
Yes.
Which,
I've
which
heard
is
of
great.
them.
Not of.
4.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of people who have probably
Who
seen the
remember it,
woman,
yeah.
but only one woman told me about the baby crying as well.
Mm.
And it was that part that I found really, there could be a link.
Yeah.
Because
Sad,
it's some,
yeah, there's
very.
it's a lot of confirmation there.
So I looked into deaths within the North Park
Yeah.
and had to look back through the records right back to there
Yeah.
to correlate it.
Which is great confirmation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Interesting.
because it makes sense.
Yeah.
To my mind, not that I know, but if you can imagine, if she's drowned the child and she had postnatal depression and then she's killed herself, because I don't know, I'm presuming, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Perfect sense.
She could have gone there
She's gone there.
early in the morning.
She did go there early in the morning. It's documented. It's documented. She went. I know it sounds bizarre because it was in the papers and recorded. Straight after she drowned the child, there was a funeral director's up near Marsh Lane.
Yes.
She went and asked for a child-sized coffin, and which they called the police,
And that's when it all came.
and that's when she was arrested.
So
and
if anybody
charged.
wants to get
That
the
is
evidence and want
fact.
to read that, go and read it. It's fact, and it's in your book as well.
Yeah.
So you've done Southport,
Mm-hmm.
Supernatural Southport because you live here.
Yeah,
You've done Supernatural Bootle because you live there and you live there.
it's where I was
It's
from.
fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah,
And it is because of where you live as well, you identify with everything.
exactly.
So anybody who buys these books are going to identify with the areas,
Yeah.
which is great.
Where
Yeah.
can they buy the books, David?
When?
Where?
eBay.
eBay.
On Facebook and eBay. I was going to do them on Amazon, but they want too much of a cut and I'm greedy.
I've heard of this before.
Do you know what, Dave? It's not being greedy.
No,
it's being sensible.
Yeah.
It is, of course it is.
And I limit them because I like the personal touch on it.
Mm.
I always sign them as well
Yeah.
on every book.
Yeah.
Because I think it's not going to be something that I could make a bestseller of because you'd have to be from Bootle or you'd have to be from Southport to enjoy the book.
Yeah, of course.
You just enjoy the.
But I enjoy writing it, and I think it's important to me to collect this kind of information because I find it really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And it's, I mean, like in the Southport one, There's a well-known one in a particular pub. There's a seat. If you sit in it, 10 people in a row have died in that seat who sat in that pub.
You won't get many drinkers in there,
No.
will there?
And it's called the death chair.
So go.
It is. I'm not going to tell you where because
No.
I've been asked not to by
Do
the...
people
That's
still
fair.
sit there though?
Yeah, but then
Only
there's some
once.
people that go in, only once, who are aware of it. And it's like an urban legend.
Oh my God.
There's
Yeah.
one.
Imagine going in, having a quiet drink, and then
Yeah,
someone
yeah.
comes in.
I've
"Get
sat
in the
there.
death chair."
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because I
So we're
wanted
talking
to.
to a ghost here, Jonathan.
Yeah, it's me. But I wanted to for a laugh.
Yeah.
It sounds silly, but I thought I'll test it.
Did you feel anything?
No.
No, but the 10 people around them did.
Yeah, they did. The ones doing the hokey pokey around the bar.
What you do there is you take 10 people you don't like sit in the chair and you
Off
all
you
your problems
go.
are solved, yeah.
I never sensed it.
But it's funny because I went years ago, I went to a place called Busby Stoop. Lovely pub, beautiful pub to go in and that. And it was haunted.
Mm.
And we went in there and there was they were telling us, I think it was one of the barmaids was telling us about the story about the chair. I don't know where it is now, I think it's in a museum or something. They put it high up.
All right.
And it's a similar story to that where
Yeah.
if you sat in the chair,
You popped your clogs.
yeah. So,
It's strange, isn't it?
so if I was
Do you
you,
think-
if you ever go to a car boot sale, if you ever go to a market, don't buy a chair.
Don't buy a chair.
Do you think, right? Because a lot of people, especially men, go to the pub every day, won't they?
Yeah.
Religiously.
Yeah.
Have the couple of pints or whatever, go home, right? Do you think they go there to die?
No.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I would say it's more coincidence. Coincidence, because if
Yeah.
you imagine 50 locals, all of a certain age, all go to that bar every night, one of them's going to snuff it sooner or later.
Mm.
So if you've had 10 who've snuffed it, pardon my French, that means die. In Scouse. If like in a year, 10 men who are in the 70s,
Oh, pass.
heavy drinkers, may I add, have all
Yeah,
snuffed
represent.
it,
There's your story.
there's your story.
There's your story, yeah.
And that's why I like to poo-poo as well as to corroborate.
Yeah.
Because it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah,
making
of course.
that confirmation, aren't you?
Yeah,
It's a
it's just
it's a legend
coincidence.
or it's a
Yeah.
true story. Yeah.
It's coincidence.
So
Pensioners, men, pensioners.
Exactly.
Go to the
do
pub
you
all the
find
time,
when you're
yeah.
writing these books, though, you're picturing the story yourself?
Yeah.
You feel as if you're part of that story.
Oh yeah, I write some of them like that
Mm.
because some people tell me in such detail when it's their own experiences.
Yeah.
I'll write it as a story, as if it's from their eyes, because at the end of the day, it's entertainment,
Yeah.
as
It is.
well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true and it's entertainment.
And I want somebody to feel what they felt as they've been through it.
Well, I was telling you, because with you being an author, that I read quite a few of these paranormal. One, because I'm interested in it anyway.
Yeah.
And I was telling you about the one in Anglesey, the lady in Anglesey called Bunty Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what I said to you. When I read her books, it's like I'm in the story. I'm
Exactly.
there. The same as when you're talking to
Yeah.
me now, I feel as if I'm there with you.
Yeah.
And that's how books should be written, to
Exactly.
make you feel as if you are part of that story.
You're
Yeah.
experiencing it
When-
with them.
When
Yeah,
you're
so-
when you're telling the story,
Mm-hmm.
you're in that room. You're
Yeah.
feeling that.
That's the whole point of it.
And I mean, I read. You've got to tell this little bit of story, David. Is I've started reading your Bootle one, and you were telling the story. When you got to that, and I went, you were down in London. You were staying at a friend's house. I think you said it was Christmas time, was it?
It was
And
near King's Cross Station,
The blankets.
Thornhill Square. It was.
do you remember all that?
I just do.
And again, you remember your own address, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. I only lived there for a few weeks.
And it was just a blanket.
It was just a blanket, but it was an antique blanket that he bought when on a trip to
And
America.
This is the first story in the story of the Supernatural Bootle.
Yeah. And basically, it was cold. And he had draped over an old, big Chesterfield chair a blanket. And I presumed it was just a blanket. So I put it on the bed. And in the middle of the night, I needed the toilet, like sometimes middle-aged men do, but I was only 20 at the time, actually. I went to the toilet, did what I needed to do, which was down a long corridor. I opened the toilet door, standing right at the other end of the hallway was this little old man. with a big white beard. I can still see him now. Big white beard and holding an oil lamp. And I'm thinking, does his father live here as well? And why is he standing there with an oil lamp? And I went, hello, are you okay? He didn't answer. And instantly you know there's something not quite right.
Yeah.
And I can still see it now. It was pitch black, but you can see what I find strange with anything paranormal, how can you have a ghost candle or an oil flame that sends golden glows up a corridor? How can that be part of the ghost?
This is where we were saying about the supernatural. It's
Yeah.
just so
But it was.
bizarre, yeah.
And I could still see all of the sides of the picture frames glowing from this oil lamp. So I decided the best thing to do was to close the door and sit in the bathroom. As you did.
Yeah, yeah.
So I sat on the bathroom and sat on the toilet for about an hour, half an hour, pins and needles in my bottom. I was only 20 at the time, and I thought, well, I'll have another look and see if his dad's gone to bed, because I was definitely sure it was his dad, who had been a bit senile or whatever. So I opened the door again, it was gone. So I got back in the bed and went to sleep. And the next morning I said to my friend, is your dad staying with us or something? And it was only 2-bedroom. I said, is your dad staying with us or something? He said, no, why? And he, I can't remember his name. He even had a name for him. He said, have you met so-and-so?
The name's in the book.
The name is in the book. I can't be bothered. I could look right now. The name is in the book. So he said, have you met so-and-so? And I said, who's so-and-so? It's actually a picture. It's not the same old man, but I put one in there of it.
Yeah.
So he said, well, he came with the blanket. And I said, I'm sorry, what do you mean? And in one corner of the blanket, there's a hole and a dark stain around it. Whether it's a bullet hole or a bayonet or whatever hole it was, he was told somebody was killed in the blanket. And that blanket I won was this man's blanket.
So it was an attachment.
And the man I'd seen at the end of the corridor was the man who was killed in that blanket. And what I find strange is that man has come all the way from the USA, over on a plane, on a blanket, to be hung over someone's chair in a whole new country, in a whole new time, and he can still be present.
Yeah, but could that be? Did you reckon that once you pass, time's nothing, you can be in a place, can't you?
Yeah, but how can you create a glow from an oil lamp?
That I can't explain.
So he's attached to the blanket.
He's attached to the blanket.
Wherever that blanket's going to go, he's going to be there.
Does he know he's dead? Is what
This is it, isn't it?
comes to me. If you've been stabbed or shot while you were asleep, maybe he doesn't even know he's dead, bless him.
You've rubbed his blanket?
And I've robbed his blanket, and he's thinking, who the hell's this in the blanket? But I didn't feel any menace from him. If anything, he was doing me a favour by lighting the hall for me to get back to bed.
You didn't, you ended up on the toilet.
Well, I know I sat there for an hour with pins and needles, and my bum was numb. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you think, is he aware?
Listen, we're laughing about you staying on the toilet for an hour. How many of us have sat on the toilet watching TikTok and things like that? You know what I mean?
That actually brings me to another story in my Southport book, swapping back to that one.
Well, there's 2 books, Southport, Bootle, and there's another one on the Wales.
Llandudno. In the Southport book, there was a pub on Shakespeare Street called the Shakespeare.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know it?
Do you know where that is?
Yeah.
Probably a building.
Now, it sounds bizarre, and it is quite a comical story, but apparently an older gentleman went to the toilet in the Shakespeare and died while he was on the toilet. Whether each blood just burst a blood vessel from squeezing too hard or whatever it was, he died. He died on the toilet.
I'm wasted.
And now, his ghost apparently had been seen many times in that bathroom, sitting on the toilet. People have opened the door and said, oh, I'm sorry, and closed the door. There's no one there. But this is the funny part. That's now been knocked down.
Right.
And it's now a block of flats. Now, what I think, and what my nasty imagination, maybe it is. What if that is now someone's lounge, and there is somebody sitting on a toilet watching Catchphrase with whoever now lives in that flat? So that poor man is in limbo forever, sitting on a toilet, but now he's got a television to watch. So he must be thanking his lucky stars. But do you know what I mean?
You don't think?
You
What do
don't
think
know,
was
and
it?
that because my mind's a bit warped.
No, that's
I
not
think
what.
that.
It's logic. It's true.
Isn't
Because
it?
he will still be there.
He'll still be there. So if they built that lounge around that bathroom area, has he now got a television to watch? So some poor man's sitting there with his wife watching telly, and there's somebody on the toilet next to them they're not aware
You
of.
can hear.
Yeah. Couldn't you though? But how lucky is he that now he's suddenly got a telly to watch?
I'd rather see him and go.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a thought, though, isn't it?
It is a thought, and that's because I'm a bit warped. That's the thought that. And then when I think back to that poor woman who hung herself in the outhouse and now she's tapping on the microwave, it's a part of hauntings that not many people address.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I do, because
yeah.
if they're there forever, as the landscape changes around them, are they still there?
Can they?
They will be, won't they?
But can
Yeah.
they also see what's going on?
Can
around
they
them?
see, and can anyone else see them? Can you imagine if, even just a glimpse every now and then,
Yeah.
that family wake up in the middle of the night and decide to get up and have a cup of tea and watch a bit of Jeremy Kyle, and there's
Yes.
the man in the toilet next to them.
Hello.
You don't know.
You don't do that.
And
No.
that's a part of the paranormal which I find
Yeah.
really interesting. Because you just don't know.
You
Well,
don't.
well, there's something. I know you write books. I know you're going to write another one.
Mm-hmm.
Get in touch with me. I've got a few funny stories. I've noticed that, and you've got a dog. It's a lovely dog. So quite love that.
Yeah, she's a good girl.
Tell you what, she matches Jonathan's hair.
She does.
Yeah.
Hey, you could put her on the chop, you'd have a full head. Put a tail there, you could have a moustache, you look
That's a
like
good-
KFC now.
I am loving this. I'm actually loving this
Colonel
podcast tonight.
Sanders.
Don't be taken after him.
But do you ever have any animal stories in your books?
Yes.
Southport?
Well, Southport's got a very major haunting that's legendary in the book. Again, obviously, I sound like Fanny Craddock, it's in the book.
No, this is what we're here for, Dave. We want you to promote this book because that's what it's about as well.
The Devil Hound of Formby Sand Dunes.
Maybe, you know.
Okay.
Formby
Very
Sand.
well known. His name was Shag, and it was. His name's Shag, and he's been seen many times. Giant black shaggy dog with burning red eyes
On Formby Sand.
on Formby Sand Dunes. Been seen many
Well, I
times.
think a lot of dog walkers go there.
But again, which is what I find interesting about it, I've looked back at a lot of the research on it. During the era of the Vikings, it goes back that far, the water came right up to where Meol's Hall is here.
Yeah.
Right up.
Right.
Yeah, that's
okay.
right.
It goes back to that, and the fact that a lot of the Vikings, I believe anyway, used to be called the sea wolves because they'd have like wolves' heads, and
So what they're saying could be a Viking.
it never really happened. I think that is urban legend to do with the Vikings raping and pillaging and coming along land, and they turned it into a devil dog. That's my opinion.
Right.
However, there's one story that I found out about where one man saw some strange woman burying a Celtic cross on the beach on Thornby. He watched her do it from afar, and after she went, he dug it up and took it home with him. And that night, he couldn't sleep because he heard scratching and growling at his front door.
So we took it back.
He took it back.
Stopped.
Mhm.
That's in his Southport book.
Yeah.
So I know we haven't got long left now, Dave. If anybody's wondering why I'm looking, but there's a clock, which is handy.
Yeah.
How many stories do you actually do? You plan how many stories are in each book, or do you just?
I
go
do it more
with
by
the
chapters. I do
Chapters,
about
yeah.
12 to 13 chapters. Some chapters will deal with about 5 I mean, like in my new book about Llandudno,
Yeah.
I've done chapters about
Sorry.
the Grand Hotel, because there's
Yeah.
lots
On
of
the pier.
spirits in there. I've done chapters on, which I wasn't aware of until I found out, the St. George Hotel, which is the oldest hotel in Llandudno, and that is severely haunted.
Right.
But until you research, I didn't realise that, for one, it's a UFO hotspot.
Llandudno.
A UFO hotspot,
Didn't know.
severely, and also that there's something called the Cobley now, which are like little gnomes or elves or whatever that apparently reside inside the orb. Never knew that.
Well, you've got the copper mines here, haven't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I never knew it was. Apparently, it was like it's called the. I think it was the Bearwin Mountains or something in the 60s, where it was like the British Roswell. Yeah.
Right. News.
And there was 2. It's not until you research it. There was 2 UFO crashes. One in the Bearwin Mountains, and one just off the coast of Llandudno.
Actually into the sea. Lynn.
With Russ Callis.
I never knew this.
Yeah.
And apparently, the day before these 2 UFO crashes, the Royal Navy photobombed the sea, where they dropped light bombs underneath the water.
Yeah.
And this man, who's a ufologist on it, reckons there's an alien base near Llandudno, and that's why they were dropping bombs. I mean, it's all conjecture.
It sounds far-fetched.
It does to me.
Or,
What is it?
But is it?
who knows? We'll never
There was
know.
definitely a crash in the Bearwin Mountains at that period of time, and it shook 2 villages. They felt the tremors, and there was Richter scales of up to 3.5, and that's true. And it was covered up.
Who we said.
Who are we to know?
Yeah, we don't know.
You don't know.
No. There's a lot of
Very
things we
true.
don't
There
know.
is. And then also I get people telling me specific stories, and there's one about an imaginary friend that this woman lived with, and that's a full chapter.
And that's in the.
That's in the new book in Llandudno, and it's quite scary what happened to her.
Right.
I found it unbelievable, but she told me in deepest confidence not to give her name.
Fair, yeah.
But her daughter had an imaginary friend in a flat in Llandudno, and it was bizarre.
Well, what we've got to do is, because I'm looking at the time now, and we've got to ask you before we finish though, is where Jonathan asked you earlier on, how can people get if they've got stories they can share with you, how they can get in touch with you, and
Facebook.
also where they can get all your books.
Get hold of me on Facebook. My 2 books, Southport, Paranormal, Supernatural Southport, and Supernatural Bootle, are on local sites within Bootle and Southport. So community sites, because that's where I advertise them. Or if you want to contact me directly, I could always send that. But if you go on eBay and just put in Supernatural Southport or Supernatural Bootle, they're there. And they'll
And
come
soon,
up.
Supernatural.
Supernatural
I don't
Llandudno.
know, yeah.
And then my next book is not about a location. It's just purely called a practical guide to ghosts.
You heard it first on here.
We'll have to do another one.
That's next week. We've definitely got to, Dave,
Yeah.
if you were willing to, we'd love to come back and do a part 2 of this, because
Yeah.
you're so fascinating.
Oh,
Yeah.
bless you.
I think we could do a whole series of the David Jenkins Paranormal, because it's been brilliant. I mean, we've been here a couple of hours now, and we're fascinated, but we've got to stop, David, because it's come to the end of the show.
Okay.
And we thank you for letting us into your home.
Yeah.
Thank you for your stories. We've really enjoyed
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
And we hope you've enjoyed David as well. Go and look for him. And from Access Paranormal, we'd like to say good night. Again, thank you, David. Go and find his books. See you again soon. Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
gentlemen, 12 boats alongside the jetty now for the 10 past 2 through this afternoon. Still plenty of seats left available for us, folks.